1 in 5 young people is sexually solicited online, which based on the number of kids in this room means it's happened to one of you, it will happen to one of you, or one of you could be in the process of being groomed right now as we speak and you don't even know it.
I know that they're officially not supposed to have social media until they're 13, but they all do.
The number one problem I think that we're dealing with are the cyberbullying and the sexting. Unfortunately, teenagers really do believe that if I'm using my phone, it's private. What they don't understand is that nothing is private, and when they're posting, it's permanent.
In the early 2000s, predators began creeping online as a means of luring our children. This accelerated with the wider use by children of new devices like smartphones. The San Diego Internet Crimes Against Children (SDICAC) Task Force, an interjurisdictional effort led by SDPD, was formed to address this growing threat. As the caseload at SDICAC grew, SDPD asked the San Diego Police Foundation to assist with the community outreach aspect of this work. In 2008, this public-private partnership gave rise to SafetyNet, a proactive crime prevention program made possible by a collaboration between SDPD, the Police Foundation, and local school districts.
I am very, very grateful that SafetyNet is here and that we have an opportunity to partner with them.
I think the SafetyNet program is very beneficial to these students. I even brought some of my upperclassmen to this presentation because I want it reiterated for them to understand. They don't know what's out there. They really don't know what they're dealing with. And as an adult, we know it's pretty scary.
School assemblies were developed as an effective mode of delivering cyber safety training to children. Presentations for parents and concerned community members were soon added to the program. This allowed SDICAC to concentrate on investigating cyber crimes against children and apprehending perpetrators.
San Diego Icac is not only San Diego County, but Imperial County and Riverside counties as well. We have about 130 investigators and 33 different agencies that I'm tasked with overseeing.
By mid-2021, SDICAC has saved more than 500 children, and SafetyNet has reached over 250,000 students, teachers, parents, and other concerned adults.
Some of the things that you can do to make sure you're safer out there on social media: location sharing, turn it off. You don't need it on for any of your social media apps. There's no reason for it. Number 2, make sure you have strong privacy settings. Your accounts should not be set to public. They should be set to private or friends only. And friends are people you know in real life. If you've never met the person face to face, don't be friends with them on social media. And don't overshare. Even with strong privacy settings, I want to make sure that you guys understand that you still don't know what other people who are seeing your information are doing with it. Who they might be sharing it with, how they might be saving it, or what they might be doing with it in the future.
Sextortion is a big issue right now. What sextortion is a little bit like that revenge porn we heard about a few years back when they passed a law in California. And typically what happens is two people will believe they're in some kind of intimate relationship online, and one will send provocative, nude, sexually explicit photos to the other person. And whether they are in an intimate relationship or not, at some point that relationship will break, and the person will then say, well, you need to send me more, or I'm gonna send these photos out. I'm gonna send them to your family. I'm gonna send them to your friends. I'm gonna post it to everybody that's on your Snapchat, on your Instagram. And it's just a way for them to get more and more pictures and more power over the person that they're extorting.
Any app is just a click away from the pedophile or the predator. Parents just need to know, they need to educate themselves on all these apps. If your child is on this app, you need to know more than your child, because I guarantee you he does. And he's going to groom your child, he's going to get your child on there and make your child comfortable, and that's how this whole process starts.
What they don't understand is that nothing is private, and when they're posting, it's permanent. And we really, our counselors are very concerned when they go to counsel them about applying for college and university, applying for jobs, and preparing resumes. All of those pieces, if they use their their names, they're out there publicly and it's forever.
About a year and a half or so ago, there was a young college-age student, a young lady, who found out she'd gotten an internship with NASA. Now, this is a big deal. This is not an easy thing to do. This means she's a smart kid, she's a hard worker, she's probably working towards having a career in something like the aeronautical or space field or engineering, something like that. But when she found out she'd gotten this internship, she went on Twitter and tweeted out, "Everyone shut the blank up. I got accepted for a NASA internship." And this guy saw her tweet and tweeted back at her, "Language." And she tweeted back at him, "Suck my blank and blank. I'm working at NASA." And he tweeted back at her, "And I'm on the National Space Council that oversees NASA." Now, when NASA found out about this, they took that internship away. You guys can go on the internet later and Google NASA intern, and this is the very first story that pops up. So for the rest of her life, when somebody reaches out to find out about her, this is the story that's going to come up. So any hope of working in the aeronautical, space, engineering fields, it's going to be really difficult, if not impossible, because of 4 lines of tweets. That's the power of social media.
I have a son who recently went to college, and we had talks all the time about how he's got to watch what he's putting out there because he wanted to go to college, and he needs to make sure that he doesn't put anything out there that's going to bite him, later down the line, and it's going to affect his college, career or life. So yeah, there's a lot out there they don't know.
We're very lucky. Many of our parents are very involved, and they do supervise their students with their social media. They do supervise with their cell phone use. They do supervise and engage in great dialogue with us about asking questions and concerns. I think a lot of parents feel like, my student would never lie to me. My student would never tell me the untruth. My student would never put themselves in danger. I'm a good parent. I'm an involved parent. That horse is out of the barn. They can't be with their student 24/7.
San Diego Icac is a little unique. We have 8 detectives that work here in-house. Each of those detectives are handpicked by either the San Diego Police Department or their own agency. Most of the time, those investigators are coming from a background of some child abuse investigation, but it takes a very special person to be willing to dive into this type of work and deal with the imagery that they're faced with on a daily basis.
I started this job in 2013, and I had just come over from child abuse. When I got here, we talked a lot about how gangs were starting to go into this because cocaine you can only sell once, but child pornography or CSAM you could sell over and over and over, so it was a reusable product. As long as those people are out there, you just have to have somebody that's willing to put in the work to go get them.
Predators, when they're looking for victims, it's very much like the old pervert that used to be around the park. They would look for the kids that they could exploit some kind of vulnerability. And online is no different, other than now they have a much larger victim pool to choose from. So when they find kids or target-rich environment like Roblox or any of the online games that all have chat functions, and some even are encrypted or have private chat functions, they'll start interacting with kids, and they can pick up very easily, is a kid needing some validation because they don't have a dad, they don't have a mom, maybe they have low self-esteem, maybe they don't have a lot of friends. Kids are really good at giving clues in what they say and how they act that pedophiles will pick up on, and they will find those vulnerabilities and they will exploit them.
Over the course of my career, I've always found myself really drawn towards protecting those that are the most vulnerable, and that being our kids. Prior to this position, I was working in our sex crimes unit, and when the command staff came to me asking me to come over here and take on the task force, it was something that just really hit home for me, and I knew that we could make a difference.
This is Willow. She's an English lab that's assigned full-time to the task force with me. I carry a caseload like the other investigators, but I'm also Willow's handler. Her job is a scent detection canine, and she sniffs out any electronic storage media. So what she does is anytime we go out on a search warrant, she's looking for anything that they've hidden. any hard drives, flash drives, any storage devices. So we spend a lot of our days playing games and finding new ways. See, show me, show me. Yes, good dog. That was another thumb drive. So what Willow does is, she's been trained, there's a chemical on anything that stores data. And so she's trained to sniff out this chemical, the TPPO. So she doesn't care what's on it, she's just sniffing for the chemical.
This is my typical day. I'm, as you can see, impounding some evidence from a recent case. This all started with a cyber tip. Cyber tip is something that we received from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. It can come from an internet service provider or a citizen that is made aware of something that's happened when one uploads child pornography on their computer. The filters at Yahoo would catch that. This is all packaged up in pink. It's just come back from RCFL, which is the Regional Computer Forensic Lab. It's in the FBI office in Sorrento Valley. They did all the forensic on this. It's in computer language when they get it. They give it to me in pictures and words. So now I'll go through the pictures and words and I'll determine what's evidentiary and what's not. You know, the things that I don't like about this job, I can tell you exactly what they are. I can tell you I can describe the images to you. I won't, but there's certain images that every time I see this, I remind myself that's why I'm here.
There is no difference between the real world and the digital world for kids. And we as adults have far neglected our kids when it comes to being involved in their lives in a digital setting. So we need to get parents to get back involved in their kids' life, get involved in the stuff that's going on online with them, play the games they play, communicate with them online, be more involved with what they're doing, who they're talking to. We can't just have a one-up conversation and say, don't meet this person, don't do this, don't meet somebody who's not a stranger. We know stranger danger doesn't work online because nobody's a stranger online. You play a game with them and they take you off to somewhere else to talk. They're not a stranger, they're the person you've been playing the game with. So it's a different world. We need to get ourselves immersed in it.
We dealt with a student just last week who, a ninth grader, whose parents work full-time, and the student is made a connection through instant messaging on Snapchat to procure a vape, which is an illegal, you know, the vape itself is not illegal, but what goes in the vape definitely usually is. And so this 14-year-old made plans with a total stranger to have that person come to their home, told them, hey, you can come to my house anytime from this time to this time. I'm home alone. My parents are at work. When we caught the student using the vape on campus and we had to go with consequences for discipline for that, it was terrifying. It was really terrifying to me as an educator, a parent, a principal, that this 14-year-old allowed a total stranger. They don't know anything about this person. And they had a $20 bill and they made that agreement and their parent never even knew. And it was just because we caught them on campus using the device. The strongest relationship really is, it truly is, between you as the parent, your student, and school staff. That's the only way we can all do this together in this complex, fast-paced, technology-infused world.
There's a lot of things that we would love to work because every victim deserves that justice, but we can't. So we definitely can't do the work that SafetyNet does and getting the word out to students, teachers, parents, administrators, leaders in the community. It's critically important. We need partners.
Thank you so much to our sponsors for making this Safety for All series possible. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wendy Waddell. I am the SafetyNet Program Manager at the San Diego Police Foundation, and joining me this morning is my friend and colleague, Sergeant Garrick Nugent, who is the Task Force Commander at the San Diego Icac offices. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here today. So we have some questions that have been written in by our viewers, and if you're ready to jump in, I know we have some great information to share with everybody.
Right ahead.
So our first question, what is Icac and what role does Icac play?
Well, in the late 1990s, the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Office decided that they recognized the internet was going to be a problem. They developed a task force, which is a nationwide task force that is currently comprised of about 61 different task forces. Each task force has both federal and state and actually local law enforcement involved. We also have state and federal prosecutors and social workers. And our goal is to combat online child enticement and exploitation. And we do that 3 different ways, Wendy.
Okay.
We actually use reactive means in which we investigate cyber tips that come through, police reports, and referrals. We have a proactive side of the house that we go online and conduct undercover operations. And then lastly, we have our prevention, where we actually go out and develop programs, community resource programs, where we go out and try to educate the community as what we're about, such as SafetyNet.
So something like SafetyNet. I was about to say, our program. Yes, wonderful. So with so many young people on social media right now, what can parents do to protect their kids?
The number one thing that we can do as parents to help our children is to be more involved in their digital lives.
Okay.
We need to have an open conversation that is ongoing with our children. Knowing what's on their phone, knowing how they're using their phone, what applications they're utilizing, and who they're talking to is extremely important. I would encourage each and every parent out there to know their children's passwords and occasionally check their phone. Not that we're prying into their safety or into their personal lives, but we're making sure they're safe.
Absolutely. So what would you say is one of the major red flags that a parent needs to look out for?
Typically when a child has been contacted by a predator online, they go through a period of grooming.
Right.
And that grooming is kind of a honeymoon period. So it's a lot of fun and games. And then eventually the predator starts to make their move, and that's when the children or our kids, our youth, become very, very uncomfortable.
Okay.
Usually we'll see them withdraw, they become depressed, and you'll see an increase in their online usage. If you see those situations, please sit down with your kids and have a conversation. Ask them what's going on, and hopefully with that ongoing communication between the two of you, you'll have an open and honest conversation.
So as you're having these open, honest conversations with your kids, what are some tips that you can provide for parents that will help them to facilitate these conversations?
Well, number one is we've just said, keep talking. Talk to your kids, be open, honest, be direct, talk to them about online safety. That's key. Number 2, please educate yourselves. Educate yourselves on the applications that your children are using. Get to know them yourselves, use them, and if need be, start Googling them. There's all sorts of resources out there exactly how to deal with the parental tips or parental controls on those applications. That leads me right into parental controls. If it becomes necessary, please use those parental controls. Limit what activities your children can use on those phones. Set ground rules and expectations. That's key. Set how long they can use the phone, when they can use the phone, where they can use the phone, who they can and cannot be talking to, and if those rules are broken, take that privilege away from them.
Yep.
This one's always a little bit controversial. Friend and follow your children. Yeah, go on their social media and become their friend. If they're not up to anything that's no good, there's no harm.
Right.
But I will say this, as a parent, don't cyberstalk your children. We want to give them a little bit of leash so they can grow and mature into the adults that we want them to be. Explore the internet and the applications that they use with them. Understand from each other how we're using them, what they're about, and learn from each other. And then lastly, please be a good digital role model. Make sure you're showing your kids how to unplug and how to curb your own digital life.
Yep. It's so fun to hear you say this, because these are a lot of the same things that I say to parents when I'm doing SafetyNet presentations for them. So this is great that you're backing me up here. So is there a particular profile that predators seem to fit?
We're asked that a lot, and unfortunately, the answer is no.
Okay.
Just like our victims, the predators come from every gender, every ethnicity, and every socioeconomic background, and therefore I can't really say that there is a specific type of person we're looking for.
Okay, so let's say a predator does make contact with one of our children online. So what should our kids do if they become victims of predatory behavior?
Absolutely. The very first thing they need to do is talk to a parent, a guardian, or a trusted adult. They need to come forward and explain what's happening, even if that situation may embarrass them.
Right.
Oftentimes, kids have gotten themselves into a little bit of a mess by either communicating or sharing information they probably shouldn't have. It's very important, though, that they're able to come to those adult figures and explain to them what's going on and provide as much detail as they possibly can about what's going on. That includes usernames, internet addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, anything that they can provide.
Would it be safe to say then they should keep this information then, make sure they don't delete
Absolutely.
things they see on apps?
Never delete anything, especially chat communications, pictures, keep those with them.
Great. So once a child does reach out to one of their trusted adults, what can that adult do? Who should they contact about this?
A couple different ways to handle that. If the online activity is believed to have resulted in actual physical contact with the child, whether that be an abusive situation or just meeting up somewhere, at that point, contact your local law enforcement. Make a police report and get the investigative ball rolling. Otherwise, if the feeling is that the contact has only been online, there's only been the interaction over the internet, contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You can contact them at reports.cybertip.org. And you can actually fill out an online cyber tip. Those cyber tips are vetted through the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. And based on the location of the suspect, that cyber tip is then provided to one of the 61 Icacs nationwide.
And if I'm not mistaken, all cyber tip reports are anonymous. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that predator won't know that it was this particular child or parent.
They can be
this.
anonymous, or you can divulge your information if
Great.
you
So what are the steps that then Icac will take after that cyber tip has been reported?
Once we receive the cyber tips, we look at whatever information was provided, whether that be text messages, text information, or imagery. That information is then provided to a detective. The detective will vet the cyber tip. Cyber tips are a little bit unusual in the fact that they come from nationwide sources. They come from not only concerned citizens and parents, but from electronic service providers such as Yahoo, Google, Facebook. Once we have those in our hands, we vet them to see whether or not a crime actually occurred. Okay. Obviously, the criminal statutes across the nation change. So we look at our California Penal Code. And once we've established that a crime has occurred, there's a number of different ways we can go with it. And that includes all sorts of law enforcement tools we use, as well as open source materials. Ultimately, it's up to the investigators how they want to proceed.
Great. I see a SafetyNet question, actually, so I'll field this one. So somebody's asking, how can we schedule a SafetyNet presentation? I'm so glad that's been asked because we do have so many opportunities remaining in this school year for SafetyNet to come to your school, your community group, your outreach organization. You can reach out to me directly. My email address is Wendy, W-E-N-D-Y, at sdpolicefoundation.org. I will provide you with all of the literature and all of the information that you need to book a presentation with us. And we can talk about whatever you want to talk about in terms of giving this information to kids, to parents, to concerned adults. All right, we have one more question, and this one is back to Icac. So if a citizen wanted to support Icac, what are some ways that our community can help you?
I appreciate you asking.
Yeah.
Icac is a very unique unit within the police department. We deal with a lot of specific problems that a lot of people can't really stomach. So that said, in order to become an investigator, to come to our unit, it takes a very special person, a prosecutor likewise, even a social worker. The best thing that the community can do, as we don't really accept volunteers through Icac, is to reach out to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. There is an organization called Team Hope, and that is a group of individuals that are volunteer peer supports that help victims of these crimes.
Great. Well, thank you so much to everybody. This wraps up our live Q&A. Be sure to register for the rebroadcast of America's Finest Canine Unit, which will be broadcasting on December 1st. If you'd like to make a donation to a program like SafetyNet or the Safety for All series, please visit our website at sdpolicefoundation.org, and any amount is warmly welcomed. Thank you again for your time this morning, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.